Hello, sumo fans. We are back.
It's been I'm still reeling from March, personally.
Yeah, there's like a hangover feeling, whoa, what just happened? It is Happy Banzuke Day, which is why we're back.
Yes, it is.
The rankings have been released, and there's some different things to discuss, so that's what we're going to do. This is our preview for anybody who's new. And we're going to start right at the top and work our way down through the entire top division. So our first guy is the great one, Hakuho. He had that knee injury in the last tournament, and he's out this tournament, no matter what. Got surgery. It's real sketchy on the details how the knee is actually doing. The plan is for July, but I think we're all just holding our breath because we don't really know what's going to happen with him.
Yeah, it's for both him and the up until recently Yokozuna Kakuryu, both of them sort of had to build themselves back up, and they hit a point where they were injured as much as they were fighting. He had called out from the beginning that he was going to be aiming for July. So it wasn't is he going to fight, is he not going to fight? We just sort of knew, skip past May, no real concerns. So Hakuho not being here is not a surprise. And it's more of a going into this. Now it's another substitute teacher day that everybody else in the Banzuke is going to have their day of it.
Yeah, it's strange though, because say he never comes back, which is a very real possibility. All of a sudden, like, what we see in this tournament is what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
So we're finally reaching that point where we might not really be expecting Hakuho to come back and win a tournament. The sobering reality is there. So, kind of pay attention to what goes on in this tournament to tell you what sumo is going to look like in the next few years. But I'll say a couple of things. One being Hakuho's got all kinds of political drama over elder stock going on, and I don't know how that's going to impact his future with future wrestlers, because I think he has a lot to offer the next generation, and it could, shift sumo in a certain direction. But the practice session that was actually available, it didn't feel the same without any Yokozuna presence, especially his presence. But it also, you could feel the weight of uncertainty in the room. Hakuho was always the stabilizing force all these years. And now it's just totally up in the air.
Yeah, so this may be the start of figuring out who we need to look to for our future. Next one.
Mm-hmm. Will that be our next guy, Asanoyama? He is actually up to Ozeki 1 East. He had the best situation out of everybody from Ozeki 1 West. 10-5. He's out of the spotlight because he was just doing his thing to, show Ozeki pride. My opinion, he is not the next one we will be looking at.
Yeah. Asanoyama, it's weird because at Ozeki 1 East, he is the highest ranked wrestler in the tournament. But everybody's sort of looking at him as a step behind right now. And this has been something we've always covered with Asanoyama, that he sort of has all the pieces but hasn't been assembling them correctly. And under those make or break moments, he doesn't seem to get it done, at least among certain people who have his number. That being said, this may be his moment to prove that he's Ozeki 1 East. So he can go in there saying, I'm top dog. It's not Shodai, it's not Takakeisho, it's not Terunofuji, it's none of the Yokozuna anymore. So I would agree with you that he may not be the first pick for top dog, but this could be his chance to prove us all wrong.
Right, and somebody's got to do it. So, you flip a coin in the air and you're like, who's it really going to be? He's got as good a shot as anybody because he's Ozeki for a reason. He can beat everybody. Mm-hmm. It's in his head. And like you said, putting those pieces together. And everybody's living in the shadow of Hakuho, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. He's a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. So if you try to aspire to do what he did or be how he was, you will fail that. We may see that again in a distant future, or never again. You know, he's sort of the Roger Federer of sumo. Like, it defies reality. So all Asanoyama has to do is be the best Asanoyama, as cliche as that sounds. He has all the tools to do it. But I'm still not convinced. I would love for him to prove me wrong. So the next guy is Takakeisho. My guy, not going to even pretend. He cleared Kadoban and somehow became, you know, runner-up in the tournament. Well, he didn't end up being runner-up because he lost. But he was part of that, you know, three-way scheme. 10-5. He's a real enigma right now. Not that he hasn't always been, in a way. He's not really doing interviews. He's not doing practice sessions. And you can look at Chris Sumo's videos for a little bit more clarity. But there was a comment in there about his body is changing and he needs to work with it. I don't know what that means, but that does, you know, make a knot in my stomach. Like, oh no, like what's going to happen now? Takakeisho is in some sort of storm. Out of everybody here, except for Terunofuji, I really think he understands and wants to live up to the weight of replacing a Yokozuna like Hakuho. Sumo has been his whole life. His father got it into him. He does that, you know, sumo pride thing. This means everything to him. But the question is, does his physical limitations prevent him from being the guy who, I mean, I never think he's going to be Hakuho, and I'm sure he doesn't think that either. But could he be the consistent Ozeki who becomes Yokozuna and just is a Yokozuna and maybe not the Yokozuna? I don't know. I kind of like that he's coy and he doesn't say anything, but it also terrifies me. So,
going into May, Takakeisho sort of has a momentary rest. He's cleared his Kato ban. He had an abysmal January. And so now he has this mental reset that he sort of, not only did he clear the Kato bomb, but then he sort of got back into the Yusho race. 10-5 is the double-digit wins is a very Ozeki statement to need. Mm. And now he's had this opportunity to work through the physical. So we had noticed that him losing weight is definitely good for long term. There was some interesting developments in his technique. And there was the thought that losing the 20-30 kilos probably affected his power. And that may be part of him needing to figure things out. Because now that he's got less mass and now that whatever is going on, he sort of needs to put that together. But he, again, like going into this, it's leveled. Physically, he's better off. I mean, you're always injured, but he wasn't sustaining an injury. He wasn't recovering from one. He's working on the diet. Mentally, he's cleared his Katoban. He's restored his Ozeki pride. So going into here, he sort of has the best chance to sort of drive forward.
Yeah, and at the very least, you know, whether Yokozuna's on his mind, which I know it is, but he can just go and try to win this tournament and just think about that. As an Ozeki, that's a baseline goal for you every tournament. It's my tournament to win. And I think he's got enough for that, barring any injuries or barring any issues with, you know, the body changes and not knowing how to work his sumo, like you were saying.
Yeah, but I think I would agree with you that he and Terunofuji have the strongest resumes going in for a potential Yokozuna successor. And Takakeisho is a matter of, can he like calm the stormy waters? Because he's like, really, he is the epitome of rising up from adversity. And that's hard sell on Yokozuna on that alone. But if he recovers, like if the adversity becomes past tense, that white belt is a done deal.
Which would be so beautiful. It's like, that's a dream that I'm not giving up on yet. The NHK World will be doing their Grand Sumo preview probably this coming week or so. It'll be interesting to see if they even mention Takakeisho's name, because they never talk about Takakeisho unless it's a little negative dig. Come on, guys. Show him some love. So our next guy is Shodai, who is now in the, rotation for Kadoban Ozeki. There's always one. He is Kadoban. He had a 7 and 8. He's been in the practice sessions, and he's kind of kept himself in there, but he seems like he's a mess, like mentally. But does Shodai need to be mentally strong? He's sort of strange like that. Shodai can kind of be on the ropes and still win. So I don't know that him being a little messed up before the tournament means anything. We'll have to see in the tournament. So I don't have any thoughts, like, as far as he's going to win this tournament or he's done. He's not Ozeki material. He's just a big question mark for me. He's going to tell us in this tournament who he really is.
Yeah, I'm looking at Shodai, and if he can sort of keep things simple, he'll be fine. So, like, he just needs to keep moving. He just needs to look at this and say 8 wins.
Yeah.
And clear the Kadoban. He's had some injury issues with the ankle. He's had some drama of his own with his stable going through some scandals that clearly knocked his rhythm off. And similar to Takakeisho, this is sort of an opportunity for him to approach it fresh and go into it clean. Unlike Takakeisho, Shodai is going to have the monkey on his back because you need to get that 8 wins. And then from there, you can sort of just, it's the big exhale. You don't have to worry about anything. Shodai will need to hone in on that mental toughness. Now, I would agree with you that Shodai is this weird paradox that the pressure almost doesn't matter for him. It's just the Shodai who shows up at that time. Yeah. And if there's anybody who will have like that the anointed one pressure just drip off him like nothing, that would be Shodai. If he can focus on that, first clear the Kadoban, get another win. And that up until recently, that's the Ozeki curse that Takakeisho broke, is that you become Ozeki and then you don't win the cup.
Right.
So Asanoyama, Shodai, and, well, Terunofuji, we'll see about him. But once you win a cup as Ozeki, then they'll start talking Yokozuna about you. So really for Shodai, just clear the Kadoban, consistent sumo, and then, make eyes at that cup and see what happens.
Right. Just do your thing. My style is sumo.
Yes.
You want that when you're in Kadoban state. I will say a quick note that Chris Sumo mentioned that Shodai was going to take an anime break for relaxation.
Yes!
So bonus points to Shodai.
One of us.
And
one of us.
I wonder, is he watching Hidemaru Sumo, or does he go the total opposite route and he's like watching romance or something?
Could be a Naruto fan.
He could be. He could be watching one of those cooking animes too. There's a whole series of them.
Prince of Tennis fan.
Somebody needs to find out. If somebody can read Japanese Twitter, I'd love to know what anime Shodai watches. So, Shodai, you're quickly gaining favor points with me for that one. Speaking of favor points, the next guy, Terunofuji, he needs no introduction. He's going to be the guy that everybody looks at until his career is over. He has solidified himself as a legend in his own way. From the moment he started to make his climb back up, because that's something that former Ozekis would never even let themselves go that far, he has had eyes on him. And now he's reclaimed Ozeki. He's going for the title. He's going hard because he wants to become Yokozuna before those knees wear out. Mm-hmm. And he's got a clock that's ticking. So he's kind of got to put it all out there if he wants to end his career on a high. So I expect aggressive sumo. I expect, barring something crazy, that he very well is going to be hoisting the cup again.
It's quite possible. So whenever we have a fresh Ozeki, the Shin Ozeki now for him, he's not really fresh, but he's new. And it's always, everybody's sort of looking like, what you going to do with this new rank, buddy? And in this case, there's the double pressure because there's the Shin Ozeki pressure. There is the culmination of the Cinderella story that everybody loves. And then there is sort of the unspoken agreement that Terunofuji is going to be the next Yokozuna. And so it's like everybody's pushing down on Terunofuji. And now, from what we can see, he just loves the pressure. He shines.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
Not going to be a problem, but if there's going to be one person everybody's going to be there watching, it's going to be Terunofuji. And so then it becomes a matter of, is he going to rise to the occasion? Is he going to be a little shaky on the knees? Is this going to be a fire that makes some of the other people in the Ozeki rank decide, hey, I've had enough of this guy showing us up?
Right. He's came out of nowhere. We've been here longer. No, it's my turn. I'll tell you this, with the whole projection of Terunofuji possibly becoming the next Yokozuna, he has all the tools to do it. There is one disappointing part if it is Terunofuji and not the other guys. Now, I would like Terunofuji with the other guys. He's not going to show up to practice sessions. He's not going to be the leader that Hakuho was. Hate him or not. You might say Hakuho was way too rough on guys in the practice tournaments. He's on borrowed time. So even if he becomes Yokozuna, he's got to be like a solitary figure in some ways. He'll be the guy in his own stable, but he's not going to be the Yokozuna who's going around helping everybody else elevate because he doesn't have as much time. So I would love for him to become Yokozuna because A, he's very exciting. B, it's like give it to him already. He already feels like he's a Yokozuna, but somebody else has to come up with him. He cannot do it alone. He's not going to be the face of sumo for the group. He's going to be a singular face. So, as excited as I am, and I hope it goes exactly the way he hopes it's going to go, I want him to bring somebody up with him.
Yeah, two Yokozunas is more exciting.
Yeah, a solo Yokozuna, not great. And when Takakeisho was the solo Ozeki, not great.
Not great.
It's far more exciting having 4 Ozeki with people challenging. So, see how this all straightens itself out. The next guy, Mr. Slow Walk. That is his name from now on until he lifts the curse. It would be Takayasu. He had the tournament in the bag. And as typical for him, the pressure is what got him. It was not his sumo on its own. Because some of those losses he had could have been wins. The pressure got to him. He stopped charging forward with confidence, like, I'm going to win this match. And was more defensive, like, oh, I can't lose this match. Somehow, some way, especially after getting another devastating loss in his career, he's got to turn that around. He's got to get the attitude that some of these other guys have, like, no, you're not going to beat me.
There's find the silver lining is going to be the thing for Takayasu. Of note is he leapfrogged over Takanosho in rank. So they put him at Sekiwaki 1 East saying, you're the best person who's not an Ozeki. And on paper, he's 10-5, which means he has started an Ozeki run. Mm-hmm. So he needs to sort of channel that. Now, I still think that Takayasu's best chance at winning a cup is if he's behind in the second week.
I agree.
And so, he needs to be, one off the pace up until, day 14 so he doesn't have time to choke. Mm-hmm. That's the dream for him, which is weird to say. It's like, come on, silver medal. It doesn't compute. And so Takayasu's in this weird space that it's just, there's that mental hurdle he can't go over, but he's putting up the results that maybe if he can at least keep the consistency. Now, I don't know if they're going to give it to him. I do feel like they're where's the cup, buddy? In the past, if you do tournament winning, caliber winning, you'd get the Ozeki rank back. I kind of feel like with him, unless he goes 15-0 and loses in a playoff, they're like, give me a cup or stay where you are.
Yeah, you've already done this to us. You were Ozeki for 3 years, and you couldn't win a cup. You kept Kadoban, regular Kadoban. There's got to be an extra gear for him to shift into if he wants to be Ozeki now. I mean, this isn't like standardized stuff here with sumo rankings. There's a very human component to it where they just decide, nah, I don't think he's ready. And the actual numbers don't matter. So you're right. they very well could be like, if this guy doesn't get a cup, he's not coming back.
So this is what's interesting for him here too, is, well, as we mentioned, Hakuho may not be coming back, and it's a very real reality that we've seen Hakuho for the last time. That being said, if he does come back in July, he's going to leave it all in the dohyo. So maybe July wouldn't be his chance to get the cup, but now would be.
Right, and he's got to have that in the back of his mind. I mean, everybody's got to have the cup on their mind with Hakuho out, even though Hakuho is greatly diminished, and the odds of him coming back and being Hakuho in July, even if he competes, are pretty slim, I think.
Slim to none.
He still commands a certain presence that gets in people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's got to be thinking, let's just do this now. And there's nobody yet, except for probably Terunofuji, where it's like, I can't beat that guy. But even Terunofuji, people have beaten him. He's not unbeatable.
He's not unbeatable.
Nobody on this list is unbeatable. That's the part where it's like, Hakuho's leaving a truck-size hole for you guys. Somebody's got to get strong enough, at least, to get in people's heads. You know? So, we now get to Takanosho, who is in the same rank again. 8 and 7. He's been Sekiwake for how many tournaments now?
Nearly a year now, which is... It is an accomplishment.
It is.
But it's a treading water and a very dangerous place to be treading water.
Right, where everything's clogged up, there's nowhere to go but down. You can't go up if you just stay at 8 and 7. You could very easily get knocked down with just one bad tournament.
And this is... So, he has defied conventional logic when it comes to Sanyaku. And that even career Sanyakus will fall out and come back. But he stayed there and managed consistency just enough to keep rank. But the thing is we've got this reckoning coming that we'll be talking about. And so this is a tournament where he may run out of that runway to start his run. And once you're in that Sekiwake rank, like you mentioned, there's nowhere to go but down if you just want to try and eke out a living. So for Takanosho, that's got to be in the back of his mind. Also, if not to get that cup, then to get those double-digit wins and do it consistently, because he's been 9 and 6,
right?
Fairly regular. Which again, at this rank, very difficult to do.
Right. It's impressive and it's alarming at the same time. Yeah. It's impressive to be that consistent, that you're that good, that you just beat everybody below you. But you got to kick into the next gear to beat the guys above you. And you know, he's got the fact that he doesn't have to fight Takakeisho. He's got this sort of ace in the hole. Because I don't think, there's nobody else here in the top rung where they don't have somebody in the top rung that they don't have to fight. Asanoyama, all his stablemates are lower. Shodai, Terunofuji, Takayasu. So Takanosho's already got this extra thing where he has one tough match he doesn't have to fight. He's got to take advantage of it, and he's got to get more aggressive. I would say being aggressive is his issue. He rests on his laurels a little bit, like, I am a strong push sumo guy, and he doesn't have that extra, like, I'm going to blast you 10 rows back in every single match. He'll do it in some matches. So, I hope he's hungry.
That's it. How hungry are you, Takanosho?
Are you ready to, like, eat some guys, or are you just like, I'm chilling, I'm cool? He seems like the chill type. That's just the vibe I get. So, we'll see. Next is our biggest enigma probably ever, which is Mitakeumi. He's pretty open. I mean, he's gone up like half a rank from Komusumi 1 West to Komusumi 1 East. 8 and 7. It was looking for a while like he was going to drop out altogether, and like he does, he pulls it off at the end. He's very open about the fact that it's mental. All these other guys they're not going to tell you what's wrong with him. He is very open about the fact that there's just something that doesn't click in his head when he goes to fight in a tournament. And he has been going to the practice sessions and he has been fighting. But his results, in my mind, are pretty mediocre, considering that A, it's practice, so it's not a full-on situation. But B, you're one of the top-ranked guys. And, you know, I don't remember. I think it was like, his record was like 9-5 or something like that. For in a practice session, like, I don't know. I wonder if he just suffers from sumo is easy for him. So when it's hard, he doesn't have the extra gear to push. Maybe.
It's a maybe. So where Takanosho may be running out of that runway, double dog dare you from Mitakeumi. Like the reckoning that's a coming. I can see Takanosho eking out, maybe falling down to Kamasubi, but Mitakeumi, that sea is gonna drown him. Mm-hmm. So now, as we'd mentioned before, every time you write him off, he wins a cup. Every time we're like, okay, it looks like he's finally getting his stuff together, he takes a tumble. And I think he was like 5-7, and then we're like, okay, he's finally out. He's lost his mojo, and then he just ekes out the 8th win on the last day. So hard to say with Mitakeumi, but the thing is that the people coming up are looking at him and saying, "You're in my seat."
That's right, and they are hungry. We know they're hungry. Will that give him the motivation to be like, whoa, this is my spot, back off? Or will he just let them take it?
That's the thing.
I don't know. I have more questions than answers with this guy, so I don't want to speculate. I'm going to just sit back and eat my popcorn and say, all right, what you got? Okay, so next we have Daieisho. Daieisho's up from Komusubi 2 West to Komusubi 1 West. May seem like some small thing, but this is sort of a breaking of a curse for him.
This is huge.
This shows his progress because he's been in Komusubi and looked really good and then crashed out. This is the first time I think he's actually increased it. Like, they opened up that second spot for him, and the last time they opened up the second spot for him, he made it look like that was a mistake. So now he's earned his way into the Komusubi 1 spot. It was a rough start to the tournament. I'm sure it was because he had to return the cup and just that first time winner.
The nerves
and the pressure of trying to show that you deserve it. I think it just got in his head. And he also had Hakuho before anybody else. Mm-hmm. You know, and Hakuho's win was actually a pretty desperate win. I don't think Daieisho expected Hakuho to just lunge his whole body at him. So, with that said, I fully expect Daieisho to come in like a maniac and be just really, really aggressive and really, really pushing on the guys. The tournament that he won, he beat every single top guy. So we know he can do it. We know he wants it. So it's just a matter of, you know, does it all come together for him? He's got the guts.
Yeah. The big thing that you said is that he broke the curse. The pressure of hitting all the way at the top in Sanyaku knocked him down before. He also had some injuries. And now that he got up there, the first week was bad. The second week was the same sumo that got him the cup.
Yep.
So he sort of got it back together. And so of the 4 Sanyaku that we talked about, or the Kamasubi and the Sekiwaki, like if the tumultuous waters crashes up, Daieisho is the strongest one, physically and mentally, because he's conquered his demons, and he's showing that he has the sumo to go higher. So, I am on record of Daieisho being my dark horse. Yes. I'm going to go up front on that. But looking at these 4, looking at Takayasu and Takanosho and Mitakeumi and Daieisho seems most game going in. So, worth noting that Daieisho did almost clean out in January the top division and then got a lot of his losses on the people underneath who are knocking at the door. We'll see what happens. I am just really glad to see that Daieisho hung on and is now in a second tournament in a row in the Sanyaku ranks. And now that he's earned the Kamosubi rank, not just having it given to him, maybe from here he can pivot.
Right. If sumo wrestlers were not human beings and they were robots and you just look at their specs, Daieisho would be at least an Ozeki, maybe on a Yokozuna run. Because he's aggressive and he knows how to win, even though he primarily does push sumo. He's got bags of tricks going on. He doesn't lack for confidence, and he doesn't have some of the problems that Takakeisho has. He's got a taller body, longer arms. Mm-hmm. He doesn't tire like Takakeisho does. So in a, non-human way, Daieisho would be better than his rank has been all this time. So, eliminate some of your humanness, Daieisho. Go into robo mode, and we'll be seeing you jump over all these guys. We'll see. Our next is Wakatakakage, the guy with the best name in the tournament. He is up Maegashira 1 East, up from Maegashira 2 West. Now, he was 10-5, and he was awesome. He got a special prize. There's just nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
Everybody else has earned the spot that they're in, so he's stuck at the dreaded Maegashira 1 East, where you get all the tough opponents, and none of the sort of sweet break you might get in the first week if you're Sekewake. But I think he can do it. From the moment he entered the top division, there was something special about him. And then he got injured and got sent right back down to Juryo. I'm like, no! He looks like somebody who's been fighting for much longer than he has. He doesn't seem to have nerves. If he does, he hides them very well. And I just see a future where he could do anything if injuries don't play a role. Because I do think he could beat anybody.
Yeah. Sanyaku are on notice. This is your reckoning. I am going down on record saying that he's the next Ozeki.
I'm going to agree with you on that.
If not Daieisho. Daieisho, I think it's like there's a little bit more.
There's some stuff that's got
a little bit more. But Wakatakakage is going to be the next Ozeki. He's got that, it's like you said, he's got that the veteran in a young man's body. And the fearlessness and the technique and the grit to just go up against somebody 100 pounds heavier than them and just not yield. It is fascinating. So I am going to be paying very close attention to him and the other Megashira one. And
Of course.
But like for Wakatakakage, like he's going to be the guy who at the end of the first week, it's either like the flame will be tempered or he's just going to lay waste.
Yep. And I'm going to say this. This is a bold statement to make, but it's just an opinion. 42 opinions. If Wakatakakage does not suffer injury, because for a lot of these guys, especially Terunofuji would have been Yokozuna, who would have been battling it for years if he didn't get injured. So you got to always take that into consideration. Wakatakakage, in my personal opinion, is the only man in the top division who could be the next Hakuho. And I know that's a really bold statement.
I see where you're going with this.
But if you're looking at raw specs here, he's got the guts, and he's a little smaller. He doesn't necessarily have to worry about his knees. Terunofuji has to worry about his knees because of how much weight is on them, and he's got some flexibility issues because of that. Hakuho came in a very small wrestler, and he built the muscle where he needed to so that you couldn't push him around, and then he had the technique. If anybody was going to be somewhat like Hakuho, it's Wakatakakage. Maybe. No pressure. Hey, he'll never hear me, so he won't feel the pressure. But that's how I feel when I see him. And we're just going to have to keep watching him in tournaments. But everybody else, it's like, there's your weakness. Oh, well, you got this. I don't feel that way about him.
Well, when you see the weaknesses in Wakatakakage, like when he loses and stuff like that, you don't think, oh, there it is. He keeps doing that. You think, he'll fix it.
Exactly. He'll work hard enough. He'll figure that out. He won't lose that way again. So while he needs time, I'm not saying he's Hakuho tomorrow. I don't know, 5 years from now, if injuries don't become an issue, mark my words. I said it. Wakatakakage will be at the top.
I'm going to just write this down.
Put it in the archives.
Put it in the archives. Save that I told you so for later.
Yeah, and you can, if this is a completely ridiculous statement.
No, I'll hand it to you. I'll be like, remember that thing you said?
And open that paper up and go, ugh.
Or he'll open that paper up and he'll just give me the nod. He'd be like, yep, there it is. That's the nod.
That's right. I guess you could call him my dark horse, except he's not a dark horse to me.
He's not a dark horse at all.
Speaking of, people that John thinks highly of, Hokutofuji is up for Myogiryu 2 East. This is another big deal. Hokutofuji, the poor guy, he's a symptom of being in the Hakuho era with all the top guys up there. He was never quite strong enough to punch through all of them, but there was always like this hype, like he could be the one if he could develop. Many times when he's hit Myogiryu 1, then he has this collapse the very next tournament. This time he didn't. This time he hung in there. He fought really good, 9-6. There was an element of, he's got to fight Hokutofuji today. What's going to happen? Is this the beginning of something?
I am, yeah. Now, as a career Hokutofuji fan, as somebody who in the past was just like, he's doing it, he's gonna do it, and then I'd come back the next time and be like, he didn't do it. Like this time, like I am just freshly anew with optimism, completely forgetting the past. And part of that is that every time he gets up this high, he gets knocked down. Like he's just like there's something that wasn't there. And there was the last tournament. A couple tournaments ago, he was 7-8. Or like, it was almost there. And then he was 8-7. We're like, he's starting to get those wins. And now he's 9-6. And I'm like, is this the time he breaks through? And I'm just completely blind to this, any sort of reality here. I want this so badly for him. And it seems like everything's ready to go here. There's a lot of just like absolute killers up at the top right there. It's a bit scary, but I would agree with you that in the second half of the tournament when Hokutofuji was out of it mathematically, but was fighting contenders. Sort of in the past, you'll be like, Hokutofuji's fighting a Sanyaku. Like, there'll be the heart and spirit of sumo on display, but then Hokutofuji's they're gonna exploit him and he's gonna fall over. But this time he's like, no.
I've learned a thing or two.
This Hokutofuji, he's beating people he's not supposed to.
Right, you're like, start tapping your chin, you're like, should I get excited or should I just hold off? Yeah, he's got to go through the gauntlet.
He does.
When you look at the top part of this, but he's been in the gauntlets before when there was Hakuho, Kakuryu, Goeido, Takayasu, Tochinoshin, Takakeisho. He's hung in there through all the changing of the guard. He might be just as strong as some of those guys. He's just...
So excited.
I get scared every time he fights Takakeisho because somebody's always bleeding. A lot of times it's both of them.
It's just blood on that to you, yeah.
Yeah, it's literally like watching a fist fight, and fists aren't allowed in sumo. So, if that gives you an indication... So we're going to see what Hokutofuji can do. He's got someone right on his heels who's my actual dark horse, and that would be Meisei. Meisei jumped up from Myogiryu 3 East to Myogiryu 2 East, 10-5. He's another victim of there's just nowhere to go.
It's a log jam.
He could have gone a little higher if things were different. I did see that he had to pull out of part of the practice tournament with a hurt ankle. I hope that's just he was worried about the ankle and not like, I'm too injured to fight now. Because that would throw this whole thing I'm about to say out the window. But Meisei's a hungry young man who, he's going to throw in everything he's got. And he does have a lot of different things he can do. He can do push. He can do belt. He can play the crafty games. He's a little bit on the smaller side. So he has the speed and he has the flexibility and the agility to do things. He's got to stay in the lane of being unpredictable to get some of his wins.
Meisei is part of this wave of reckoning. I'm with you that if Mitakeumi and Daieisho and Takanosho were 7-8 instead of 8-7, Wakatakakage, Hokutofuji, and Meisei would be Sanyaku right now.
Yep.
All three of them have that power. And with Meisei, because he was he's not been around as long, like you said, some people they're like, oh yeah, Meisei, I think I remember him. I'm like, don't you sleep on Meisei.
That's right.
He will thrash. And last tournament, he was hanging in there with everyone. Like, he would, 10-5.
He won a special prize as well.
He won a special prize. You don't get 10-5 at Megashira 3 East without beating people higher than you.
Exactly. And bonus points because he made Terunofuji laugh on the sidelines. I don't know that I've ever seen Terunofuji laugh before that.
Yeah. High hopes for Meisei. This whole the meat grinder, as you usually say, is very interesting this time around because it may be grinding the other way.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know who's going to be a casualty in this whole situation.
You don't know. Usually we're looking at, now there's going to be the case for a few people, but we're looking at this block of 10 people.
It's crazy.
And just the guarantee of rank signifying skill is not there.
Exactly. There was a time where there was some predictability to sumo. It's like, oh, he's winning this amount, he's steadily going up the ranks, there's nobody else to compete for that specific rank, we know where he's going. We don't know where anybody's going, because some of these guys belong in higher ranks, but they can't get there. Some of these guys, like Mitakeumi, probably belong in a lower rank, but he's just consistent enough that he gets to keep his spot. So yeah, this is what transition looks like.
Yes.
This is what happens in a new era, in a new era for Japan, but also a new sumo era. It's chaos. And maybe 5 years from now, it'll start to look the way it did before. But I don't know. This could be the new normal for all I know.
Here comes the chaos.
So next, speaking of chaos, would be the flying monkey Tobizaru, who had a pretty big jump from Maegashira 8 West to Maegashira 2 West. 10-5. He finally started to look like the guy who was a contender for the cup when he first came into the upper division. I was a little troubled. He really started falling after that runner-up situation. And I thought maybe there's a reason he was in Juryo his whole career. Maybe this was a fluke. But I still liked him, and he's so expressive, and he's got a variety of techniques, and he's got that fearlessness that Wakatakakage has. But it wasn't all clicking together. It was like his arms are over here, and his feet are going in the opposite direction, and craziness is going on. Last tournament, he started to look like the wrestler who could contend for a cup. So, let's see. He's part of that meat grinder.
Yeah.
And he's very untested in a lot of ways. There's
some curious promotions going on in this. 'Cause a lot of it was, with a lot of people near the bottom of the Banzuke winning and a lot of people at the top with winning records in March, it meant that the middle had this weird, vacuum where people got, thrown up and thrown down because of the disparity. Mm-hmm. Tobizaru, maybe a bit of a higher leap, but this will be his second time in the upper crust. So the first time, he was super low, he was a contender, they threw him in there with the Sanyaku and he got slapped around. And so they just you go up, and then he went up and he just got completely demolished, tumbled down a little bit. Now that he's jumping back up again, I'm gonna be hard to be too optimistic about Tobizaru.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. He's in there when it matters. Like the match against Takayasu. Mm-hmm. That was the one where Tobizaru didn't win, Takayasu lost, but still.
To stay in it
with a former Ozeki in a long belt match.
Mm-hmm.
It says something about him too.
Well, I can just tell by the matches he had, because he had the longest matches. There were 3 or 4 matches that went on way longer. And he won them. It wasn't just he hung in. He wins these matches, even if Takayasu is the one who defeated himself. His training regimen must be sick. You can just tell. The endurance that he has. Maybe he has some genetic advantages. Who knows? But the endurance he has, he must train like a machine. And to me, I always feel like hard work should pay off somewhere. So I am not sleeping on him. I don't know what he's going to do because I do think he's still very untested. But it's not going to surprise me if he does do very well.
I agree.
So I'm not going to say too much about our next guy because he's your boy. Aoiyama. He did a massive leap from Maegashira 12 West to Maegashira 3 East. It makes sense because he was the actual runner-up, because when Takakeisho lost, then Aoiyama gets runner-up in the tournament. It was a surprise that he did it, but that's sort of a yes and a no. Aoiyama has always been a guy who could do this, it's just he's an aging guy at the end of his career. So I'm going to let you discuss what you think is going on.
There's two things. There did seem to be some revival in him, and whether that was a spark or a fire remains to be seen. And he was on a slow going down, just sort of Makakoshi after Makakoshi, and he was also mentally fading. And then just something happened this tournament that everything just got cranked back on. And will this continue going forward? Remains to be seen. It was an anomaly in a way. I absolutely loved it. But I suppose I'm expecting him to get knocked down a little bit, maybe sort of a 6 and 9. But what is going to be interesting is if that full steam ahead gets stuck on. And then if he burns forward until he runs out. And it could be a similar sort of fire to what Takarafuji had. Mm-hmm. And that Takarafuji sort of just built himself out from nowhere. And then he started rising and rising. Now, Takarafuji had a little bit of a tumble, but we'll talk about that later. It's so baffling.
It's baffling.
Yeah, it's like you get a present for Christmas, and you're just like, when did you get that? It wasn't on my Christmas list. I didn't even write it to Santa, and it just shows up.
Did you read my mind?
I know what's going on. That's my feeling with Aoiyama. So I'm sort of like I'm trying to analyze it, but at the same time, I'm just more shocked it happened.
Doesn't make any sense. It's just you take the gift and you get excited about it.
You get just like, well, maybe we'll see what happens in May. Double-digit wins, 2 tournaments in a row.
If that happens, though, we're going to have to just flip the table. I don't know what's going on in Sumo
well,
anymore.
I mean, strictly speaking, what we said about everybody else could apply to him. We just didn't expect it to.
Exactly. But he is a former Sanyaku. I mean, years ago, he was a guy to beat. It's just age does catch up to you, especially with all these young guys. So we know he's got it in him. It's just, is he going to defy some physics here? And
it's possible.
Yeah. So next is one of my favorite comeback stories, one of my favorite guys. I've been waiting a long time for him to come back, and that's Chiyonokuni. He rose up from Maegashira 9 East to Maegashira 3 West. So let me give you the positives and then the negatives on this one. The positives are he is the funnest wrestler to watch. I like his style. He's up close and personal. He is just scrapping and grabbing and slapping and just, it's a total brawl. And there's the energy and there's the passion and the skill. But he's very injured. That's why he got knocked out. He's one of those guys like Terunofuji, where if things had gone differently for him, he'd be in the upper echelon. But that is not to be for everyone. Some people will have injuries that ruin their career. I really hope that's not the case for him, but the fact that he comes all the way back from injury and then gets like 2 injuries, I'm like, that doesn't look too good. So he's sort of my cautious present. Like, oh, let's see how long the batteries last. Like, this is a really fun present. Thank you for giving it to me. But I'm afraid the batteries will be dead in like a week, and then it won't be so fun anymore. Mm. I hope that's not the case for him. I really think he's awesome. I'd love to see him healthy and right in the meat grinder. But I'm not gonna I'm not going to jinx it. I'm just going to watch him and hold my breath the whole time and cross my fingers and put some garlic over my head.
He's one of a few anomalies because of the way that the rankings meshed out. That he got an 8 and 7 and went up 6 rungs. So this is towards your sort of echoing you. It's a blessing and a curse. And that Megashira 3 is sort of where we always felt Chiyonokuni belonged. But maybe the state of his body isn't at a place that he can keep up there. Mm-hmm. If he's able to heal up, if he has a very like a convalescent, like sort of like a curative last 2 months, and he comes in with like 30% fewer bandages on him, then this could be really something to watch. And then we're going to get into this interesting scrap where he's going to get a couple of the Sanyaku ranks, but then we're going to have all those, the Reckoning are going to start clawing at each other.
Right.
And those are going to be some good matches. Like, can you imagine Chiyonokuni up against Meisei or Wakatakakage?
Yeah.
Those are good matches in the making. If Chiyonokuni is game. And that's the big if. That's the how much batteries do we have left in this thing? And that's where the question mark is. And that's what we're going to find out in May. Right.
We have no idea until we get there. I don't think there's even going to be a hint. Because guys like him don't go to practice sessions. They're not, the paparazzi's not outside his door. What's going on, Chiyonokuni? You know, that's a good thing, but at the same time, it's like, well, I'll have to just wait in anticipation to see what happens. Okay, so our next guy is Kiribayama. He has retained the same rank, which is impressive considering how much movement was going on in that middle section. He is Megashira 4 East, 7 and 8. So here's the deal with Kiribayama. He's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of good skills. He's got a good head for sumo. He's one of the smaller guys. I tend to think the smaller guys are more durable when it comes to avoiding injury. Not super small, where they can break you in like a twig, but not super big, where your knees are going to struggle after a while. He has got a benefit that we will see how it weighs out. With Kakuryu retiring, he now has time to devote completely to Kiribayama. It's going to be like Kisano Sato with Takayasu. The burden of should I keep fighting in sumo is gone. Kakuryu can laugh and smile again. He can go about his day and look at the birds and the sun and say, I'm glad to be alive. And I'm going to put everything I got into Kiribayama. So the question is, how good of a coach is Kakuryu? And can Kiribayama rise to the challenge? If everything aligns, Kiribayama is going to start shooting upwards really, really fast. But it's one of those things where we'll see it when we see it.
See it when we see it. So it is Kiribayama with the 7 and 8. There were 4 people in this Banzuke who were 7 and 8 and retained rank. And he was one of them. And I do think that in each case, it was because they earned it with their fighting spirit. Mm-hmm. And for Kiribayama, like he is the epitome right now of almost there. He's giving it his all. He's trying. It's just a matter of picking up those little extra skills, getting a little more comfortable. For him to keep rank at Megashira 4 is sort of a sign from the Sumo Association saying, we see you're trying. We're going to let you go a little bit further and see what happens.
Right.
And so this is it's not of the same severity as like making a second Sanyaku rank, but there's a sort of that same sentiment that I'm interpreting, where they're going to Kiribayama and we're like, we're betting on you a little bit. Like, you know, it's not $100 bet, it's a $10 bet. There's still money on the table in a figurative manner. That's the take I get for Kiribayama. And I agree with everything you said about Kakuryu, retired Yokozuna, now can focus his time on the birds and the cherry blossoms and his protege suplexing people. Mm-hmm. It is worth noting that in the sort of Kiribayama shining moments, like he is like frame for frame, just a younger Kakuryu.
He is.
Which is very fun to see that succession in place.
Yeah, you're not going to see that with Enho and Hakuho, unfortunately, because Enho just isn't big enough. That's his biggest problem. If Enho had been able to put on weight and just get a little bit stronger. He has, all these bags of tricks like Hakuho. Here's an example where we might actually get to see master-student come up, and the student looks like, Master 2.0. Mm-hmm. Kiribayama wrestles a lot like Kakuryu, and Kakuryu had lots of exciting, things going on before all the injuries. So it's exciting to see a changing of the guard in a positive way for once, instead of the sky is falling in sumo because Hakuho is gone. So we'll see. But it's funny, another person who also maintained rank at Maegashira 4 West, and that's Myogiryu, also had a 7 and 8. I wonder if they did this in a pair. There's a thing with sumo where I almost think that when they look at it, they say, if this guy's going down here, this guy's going up here, or these two guys are... I don't think they ever take one individual and say, he's going in this spot because this is the spot. There's always somebody else they have in mind. Myogiryu had a very similar tournament to Kiribayama, same record. I wonder if there was a little bit of a conversation of, let's just let them both stay. Nobody's going to take the spot. Myogiryu in the beginning was the front runner. He's going to take this thing. I didn't think it would stay, but I was a little shocked how much he collapsed in the second week.
He got thrown to the wolves a bit.
Yeah, they didn't want Myogiryu to win the cup.
Well, they didn't want him to win without
competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they gave it to him, and he got thrown around a bit. As we've always said about Myogiryu, he's always got fight in him. Mm-hmm. He's always game, and that's what the first week told us last tournament. We were all baffled. We're like, what, 6-0? What?
What is happening there?
It's like, we knew you could, but we didn't think you would.
This is the reason why whenever we get to a wrestler that's got history, like a veteran, you never just say, he's going to be in Juryo, his career's over. That is never true.
It's never true.
You don't know which ones are going to be the ones that challenge for the tournament.
Even some people will be talking about later on down the ranking, or looking at them, and they're like, oh, they may be on the way out. Which is like, we will never point at somebody and say, you're done.
No, not unless you're ikioi.
Well, yeah, unless you're held together by duct tape and good intentions, then yeah, you're on the way out. But he is... If he does another 6-0 next tournament, we're just like, well, I guess it's us. We just didn't see it.
Exactly.
Not a surprise anymore.
Right. So, he's the wily veteran. He's going to do what he does, and we're just going to see what happens. So, our next guy, he's very exciting, and that's Hoshoryu. We've talked about him a lot because of his famous uncle. He's up from Maegashira 9 West to Maegashira 5 East. 8 and 7. Well, what's interesting about him is he was really struggling at first, and you can sense that there is the bearing down pressure. He probably has paparazzi at his door, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. And or Uncle is actually calling him on the phone. I know he showed up to a couple of matches in January. So you already know he has the pressure built in, but then I think he looks like he might have a hot temper. And he looks like he might also be a perfectionist. All kinds of stuff was going wrong for him in the beginning. And then he started to get a win here and a win there, and you got to see the confidence build, and you got a small picture of what it could look like if he gets out from all the mental stuff.
Mm-hmm. I had so when I was starting to write the notes for everybody, including Hoshoryu, before the Banzuke came out, and my note for him was a slow confidence build, and this is what we were wanting from him. 8 and 7, I'm looking at that. I'm just like, he'll be up like maybe a rung or two. The slow confidence build. And then he goes up 4 rungs on an 8 and 7. I was like, whoa. Because the thing about Hoshoryu is, the higher up he gets, I think that it's the inverse pressure. That the higher up he gets, the less pressure is on him, because the more he's actualizing what people are talking about.
That's a good point.
This is, whether or not this is true, hearsay, but it seems that's what's going on. When he's on the lower rungs, when he's at risk of going down, there's the desperation and the big thing was, the last time when he was sort of near the double digits and he was losing, then he was like that 2-5, and then he went on that run, and 2 of the wins on that run were Henkas. They were desperations, and we made a whole joke about that. This time when he was winning, it was on confidence. It was on technique. It was on, whoa, you got this going. You said, like, the flicker of what could be. So now, like, the more time he is, the higher he's going up, it seems the more he's able to believe in himself.
And that is going to be the key for him. I think... I'm not as high in him as Wakatakakage, but I do think I see seeds of someone who could be a champion. You never know, because you've got the injuries and you've got the mental issues. Them being human beings and not robots. But my gut is saying that he does actually have the seeds of someone who could be great, and it isn't because of his uncle. His style is very, very versatile. He's strong. He's small. Once again, I like the small guys. He's small, but he's strong. You're not going to just send him flying if his move doesn't work. He's going to be a wall to you. I think you might be right. We'll see that if he's higher up, his confidence is higher. It's that he is afraid to fail. It's not that he doesn't think he's great. It's that when he fails, it's proof that he's wrong. That fits what I see from him, you know, being an amateur mind reader and all. So, we're going to see. I think it's going to be exciting. There's some more popcorn popping.
More popcorn there, yeah. And maybe he will throw Ichinojo like a bowling ball again.
Oh. That is just awesome. I love when the little guys fight Ichinojo. Those are the best matches. Best. So next we have Onosho. Maegashira 5 West, down from Maegashira 1 West. 4-11. The guy's got talent, but it's just, he's chaotic. He's just chaotic, that's what it is. He's all the way up, he's all the way down, he's strutting 1 minute, he's eating dirt the next minute. Something's got to come together for him to put something stable together, and then we can even get a picture of what kind of sumo wrestler he could be. I don't know who he is at this point.
He's getting closer. Now, again, looking at sort of prior time comparing to now, the last time he was all the way near those top ranks, he had that oh no show, basho. He was 2-13, and he didn't get his first win until like day 14, and then he like freaked out. So that was the first time Onosho hit the meat grinder. The second time, 4-11, still double-digit washes, but now more wins. Right. And what was interesting is Onosho was showing that he had the power, he just didn't have the technique and he didn't have the control, like you said, the chaos. So once you got to that high rank, people know how to deal with you. They have the better footwork, they have the better balance, they've seen the strength before and they know how to handle it.
Exactly.
So Onosho is sort of like he's, you know, he climbed a few feet higher and then he fell back down. So at Maegashira 5, it's not as steep a fall as you could have gotten. No. For double-digit losses, which means that he's falling into a place that he can still fight those game contenders.
Exactly, and that's important because, like you were saying about Hoshoryu, if you're fighting guys who are way below your level, and nobody's really way below your level, but still, if you're fighting guys that are below your level, it's either going to artificially inflate your sense of your sumo, or it's going to be demoralizing to you because it's like, I belong higher. And I think Onosho is more skilled than his rank is half the time because of the chaos. I mean, he can beat a Yokozuna, but then he'll fall on his face because he's on his toes. You know, it's a disappointment when you lose for reasons like that. You know, because you lost your footing or because you're up too high on a guy. These are the kinds of things that if you want to be the next level, you got to fix those. That can only happen in training. So, him and his coach, they know what they're doing. And, presumably, they're working on that.
Hopefully.
So, next we have Hidenoumi, the brother of Tobizaru. He had a nice jump from Maegashira 15 West to Maegashira 6 East. 10-5 record. There's, like, the first 4 letters of his name, Hide, looks like hide. He's been hiding. I haven't really known enough about him because he's been around Juryo. And he was in the upper division when I started watching, I'm pretty sure, but it wasn't very long. And he spent a long time in Juryo. So was that a flash in the pan? Or is he finally showing what he's got? Or does, being in the upper division with his brother give him some extra oomph? Like, yeah, I got to stay here with my brother, and they're elevating each other, because that's very important.
The two of them will be borrowing energy.
Right, is this one of those spirit bomb situations? So, I don't have much to say because I don't know what he has to give yet. I need 2 tournaments at least to say, okay, this is what he's got.
Yeah. Of the 3 new people from last tournament, where it was Daimami, Tsurugisho, and Hidenoumi. Hidenoumi and Tsurugisho, they made their presence known. Mm-hmm. It felt like. Daimami was 9-6, so no slouch there. I feel like Hidenoumi is moving forward. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he hits that higher competition. Because it's going to be him smashing into a wall. It's just like, either he's going to hit that wall and go back down, or he's going to go right through the wall. And, like, towards what you mentioned, Hidenoumi, seeing him in March was the first time I remember seeing him in a while, at least under the level of scrutiny that we've been putting people through. So he's sort of an unknown variable. His belt work was great, though. And so seeing this upsurgence of a lot of good belt work is going to be fun, if nothing else for variety. I'm optimistic that he's going to do a little better despite the drastic rung increase.
Oh yeah.
Is he going to be 10-5 again? Doubtful, but I expect him to surprise us.
He very well could. I mean, he's in a decent position to fight both higher guys that aren't the best and lower guys that he can easily beat. You could see him jumping up to Myogiryu 1. It's possible.
But again, a big unknown.
Right.
We'll see. Him and Tsurugisho, I'll be keeping an eye on for no other reason than they showed a lot of promise. Mm-hmm. And what are they going to do the second time around? And
then we'll start to have an idea of, what does the future look like with these wrestlers?
With these guys.
So next, I'm convinced that this was a pairing as well. Ichinojo, Myogiryu 6 West, maintains the same rank, 7-8. He actually fought the best I've ever seen him fight.
This was... The 7-8 is completely opposite his effort.
Yeah, I mean, Ichinojo, I affectionately call him Snorlax. It's like he's asleep for half the tournament, he wakes up for a match, throws a guy like he should, goes back to sleep. Ichinojo was going at people, which is what he should always have been doing. Because he's such a big guy. If a Mack truck's coming at you, you're probably going to lose to it. Mm-hmm. But not only that, if somebody was, like, a little speedy, he still found a way to, like, shuffle around and grab them. And he was doing throws and stuff like that. And he wasn't giving up completely at the edge. He did a little bit, because we discussed in length about how Ichinojo's a big guy, and I'm sure he's afraid to fall off of the dohyo from that height. He could seriously hurt someone below him. He could seriously hurt himself. So he does get very nervous at the edge. And you'll see that many of his fighting partners will actually prevent him from falling. You don't see that with many others. I constantly see somebody grabbing him after Ichinojo is out of the ring. He was a little bit more gutsy about it and fighting a little bit more before he was pushed out. And he's got this newfound energy that I've never seen. And I've been watching him fight a long time. I thought maybe he lost some weight, and then I found out he gained weight. So I don't know what's going on with him, and I hope it wasn't just one tournament, because I really like Ichinojo. You got the little guys, and you need them for the excitement and the speed and the doing all the crazy, but it's sumo, and you want to see the big guys. You want to see the power. You want to see heads collide. It's not the same without him being in the upper division. It was very difficult when he was down in Juryo.
He was down. He has regathered. Again, don't let the 7-8 lull you into thinking that he's on the back foot. Like that 7-8 still doesn't make sense in my head.
Me either.
Outside of the sumo he was putting on did not seem like a 7-8. So it is a matter of I want to see more of that, please. And let's hope that the record reflects the fighting spirit this time.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's rooting for that. So we go down to now a good news, bad news situation, which is Tochinoshin, who I said is his partner in this, in that he maintained the same rank of Myogiryu 7 East, also 7 and 8. Tochinoshin, we all know what the situation is. His knees are shot. There's no chance they're ever getting better. There's been multiple tournaments where he's had an opportunity for rest because of either coronavirus restrictions. They're not doing the intersession trainings. They're not traveling. The knees aren't getting any better. He is just fighting on borrowed time. And he is one of the most exciting, most loved sumo wrestlers in the sport. I don't know about in Japan, but certainly outside of Japan. He is beloved. His story was one of the first comeback stories. His power, if fate wasn't so cruel and injured him the way they did, he would have been one of the best Yokozuna to watch. Because he just could lift anybody. And Terunofuji gives us an essence of that. I think that's...
A little bit.
That's part of why I think some people really like his sumo, is because everybody misses Tochinoshin.
Yeah, he's... The 7 and 8 for him, sort of the opposite of Ichinojo, if they're two sides of the same coin. And that you look at the 7 and 8 for Ichinojo, and you're just like, you did better than that. And you look at the 7 and 8 for Tochinoshin, and you're just like, oh, good, you got 7 wins. Okay. But, like, all I really have to say about Tochinoshin is, do well, feel better, gambaru, do your best.
Yeah.
Please just stay with us for as long as you feel like doing this, because there is never going to be somebody like you.
No, I'll be in mourning when he retires. I seriously will, because I also don't necessarily think he's going to stay in Japan.
He's way.
Got a wife and child in Georgia. He's still a Georgian resident. You have to give up your citizenship in order to, be a coach in Japan. I've heard no talk of such. So when he retires, that's it. Now, maybe we could follow the Georgian news or something, because I heard he might want to start his own sumo school in Georgia. That would be super cool. But enjoy him while he's here, because he's not going to be the guy you see on the side when his career's over. So, keep it up. I agree with you, John. Next we have Takarafuji. As I stated in the last session of ours, Takarafuji was my very first favorite sumo wrestler. He tumbled quite a bit down from Myogiryu 1 East to Myogiryu 7 West, 3 and 12. Bad basho, for a variety of reasons. First of all, he's one of the only ones who had to fight Hakuho. Second of all, I just think he was too high ranked for his capabilities. He's a really good, stable sumo wrestler. But being at Myogiryu 1 means you got to fight all the toughest guys without having the benefit of being like a higher ranked guy and skipping some things, skipping around who you have to fight. I just think he was probably tired.
He was tired. The big thing out of the last tournament for me was seeing on his normally stoic, unreadable face the sign of distress and the mental strain that was. So for him to have any sort of a getting in his own head, I was just like, that's a bad basho. So like for Takarafuji, leave the cursed basho behind.
Don't even think about it another second.
We're done. March doesn't exist.
It never happened.
It's just a bump in the road. At 7 West, I agree with you. He'll have a lot more opponents that he'll have more to deal with. I expect him to start climbing again.
Yeah, I think he will too.
And really, like, when he first hit Myogiryu 1, we're like, maybe this is his resurgence. In the same way that we had the Takayasu resurgence and the Terunofuji resurgence. We're just like, he's getting that old man energy too. And then he sort of just tumbled down a little bit. I'm just like, ignore it.
That's right.
Old man energy still good.
He is. He's one of the most consistent sumo wrestlers left in the top division. He's a Yokozuna training partner, which means, they want to test themselves against the guy who's really good. Like, let me try this move. What will Takarafuji do with it? He's the man. That's all I can say. He's the man. Forget that last tournament. I think he's going to, barring if he's injured, always have to say that. I think he's just going to do what he does best, and it's going to be awesome. That's what I always expect from him. He is up there in age, which always scares me because Yoshikaze retired out of nowhere. He was one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. I dread the day where it's like Takarafuji's like, yeah, I just woke up and I'm done. But you can still fight. So please don't do that. It's always in the back of my mind that he could do that. But
it's true. That's when it starts.
But we're rooting for you, buddy. So next we have Tsurugisho. He is up from Maegashira 14 West. So we weren't sure when he first came up in the last tournament what he was going to do. You know, is he just riding the high of winning in Juryo, and then he's just going to be right back down in Juryo? Instead, he puts up a 9-6, and, you know, he benefits from the energy from Daieisho. You know, this is the thing. When you have upper-ranked guys in your stable, you can kind of feed off of each other and train together and learn from each other, and I think Tsurugisho was definitely riding some Daieisho waves there, and I expect that he will... I think he will do good in this next tournament as well. I don't think he's going to, like, go really crazy, but I would expect at least a Kachikochi.
Yeah. So, Tsurugisho was very interesting to watch because he was just all nerves, hard to read. Like, again, like the first week, you're like, you're nice seeing you, I guess. And then he just snaps it on, does crazy good belt sumo. So, this is going to tangent off into something else, but, like, if we see a Tsurugisho with no nerves, just fearless, it's just like, he's going to win the tournament.
Right.
And, like, this is sort of what's interesting about the energy, all this sort of this coalescing, combining, like, aggregate energy, everybody's sort of coming together in this way. It's just like, this is anyone's ballgame right now. Mm-hmm. So we've got the people up at the top who are really fighting for it. You got these contenders in the middle, the wave of reckoning, and then we got these people lower down who are these like untapped skills who are coming up and are like, look what I can do. And so somebody like Tsurugisho, who's this like unknown element, which, I mean, he's not 17 East or anything.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm looking at Tsurugisho, similar idea for Hidenoumi, that I'm like, we saw a lot out of you, but I think there's a lot more you've got to show us.
Right. Now, are you going to show it or not?
And therein lies the issue. Is Tsurugisho gonna just, strap on his Mawashi work and say, time to get double digits? Or is he going to hit the point where he's just up against people who are a little too game?
Right, and he's like clawing through the dirt like, give me that 8 and 7.
It's possible. But it's going to be very interesting to see these new risers.
Right, these sort of variables.
New to us, anyway.
Right. But, in a way, they're new to sumo, and I'll tell you why. Your past is the past, and you're always a new wrestler every single tournament.
It's true.
So while some people might have the consistency, very few people have the consistency that Hakuho has. Mm. So you have, like, Asanoyama decide he's going to take a trip on the Kadoban circuit, and maybe it's, Tsurugisho is the kind of person who benefits from some of these guys taking a collapse. That kind of thing.
Could be.
So the upper guys, if they don't keep their composure, how does it impact these sort of middle, lower guys as well?
That's a good point.
How does it energize the competition? We've seen that happen before where all the top guys start screwing up and all the bottom guys start getting 10 and 5s.
Yeah, everything recycles.
So we'll see. Next, we have the other enigma. If you were to partner him with someone, it would be Mitakeumi. Maegashira 8 West down from Maegashira 5 East. Now, he pulled out halfway. To be fair to him, he was injured right away, you could tell.
Yeah.
His calf was... It was either his calf or his thigh. I think it was his calf. Was, covered in a mesh thing right away. You could see he was slow. You could see he was kind of tentative. So I knew right away, I'm like, well, this is not going to go well for him. So I'm not going to beat up on that tournament. And I don't know what kind of recovery he's had. But Endo himself, I don't know what to think of him. He's got the skills to be an upper echelon, and he just doesn't do it. Because it doesn't even seem like it's mental. Because he doesn't seem to show a wide range of emotion. But maybe it is. He just seems like a real stoic guy who goes in, fights a real good match one day, goes in the next day and says, didn't work out this time. So you got the injury, you got the fact that he's already an enigma. I don't have any prediction for this tournament.
I will appreciate Endo for the aesthetically pleasing record of 5-5-5.
I agree. I was thinking that too.
I'm sort of like, we're never going to see this often, that just because they're always odd numbers.
Yep.
It's usually going to be, so, it's an 8 and 7, a 7 and an 8, but it's just like 5-5-5. You're just like, it's nice and calm. I feel like there's a symmetry. It's absolutely nothing to do with anything. And
who knows? Maybe it's like a battle cry for
the big question for Endo is, how will he come back and recover? He always seemed to be sort of a middle of the pack kind of guy, and now that he's in the middle of the pack, a normal Endo would do pretty well here
and go up to Myogiryu 1 again
and be on his way up. But how is that injury? We just hope that 2 months of whatever he needed for that calf is going to be good enough. The Endo that we all don't actually know but still love is, I see that being easily doing pretty well and sort of thrashing some of these new people who are making their way up.
Right, he certainly can do it on his best day.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's not injured beyond repair, he's going to have a decent tournament and we're going to see him climb. Yeah. And then we're going to have to... We have to talk about him every couple of tournaments versus every tournament for whether or not he's going to make a move. Because his consistency is not there. Yeah. So we'll see which Endo shows up.
Yeah. We will know, better or worse, after the first few days. Because if he's fighting injured again, then we're like, okay, he's going to be down again.
It's going to be one of those.
But if he starts doing crazy stuff, then we're like, good to go.
Exactly. So next we have Shimanoumi. Down from Myogiryu 3 West to Myogiryu 9 East. 4-11, he got beat down by the upper rank guys. It was inevitable. He's got a great spirit. He's got a great style. But he's not there yet. He's just not top tier. And so the result was quite predictable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He pole vaulted up. I sort of have this concern for Tobizaru in this tournament. And last term we went in, we're like, Shimanoumi, we're just like, you're too high up, buddy. Yeah. You're going to get knocked down. 4-11, not bad for somebody considering somebody who's not been on those upper ranks in it recently or if at all. So really for him, it's just recovery. It's go back to what you're doing. Worth noting that his grit is still there. That edge of the rope stuff.
Yeah.
He beat Terunofuji. I mean, it's like he's...
that has to count for something.
That is a strong... You go home at night and you're just like, that guy won the tournament. I beat him.
Exactly.
He's nothing.
Exactly.
So that's the kind of energy that Shimanoumi gets, and I have no problem with him channeling that. So he'll be back.
Yeah, I think he will be back. I think this is just a bump in the road, and if he capitalizes on what went well, I mean, that's a big thing to capitalize. He's not walking away with a 4-11 and be like, well, all I beat is like the guys who were lower than me. I beat the tournament champ. That means something. Build on it, come back, be stronger. You got this.
He's got this.
Next, we have someone who doesn't have this right now, and that would be Kagayaki. He is down only 2 rungs from Myogiryu 7 West. He's now Myogiryu 9 West. 6-9. It was a rough tournament. This was the most discombobulated I've ever seen him. I couldn't tell if he was injured, if his game was off, if just, I don't know, hay fever. Some guys were dealing with hay fever, actually. Maybe it was that. Maybe the hay fever just threw off his balance. It was weird. There's a reason they call it the Stormy Basho, even though it was in Tokyo instead of Osaka. This would be one where hopefully you could forget as well.
For him, yeah. The 6-9 minute wasn't as painful, but I would agree with what you said, that he seemed discombobulated and sort of tacked on how you always describe him as very much a very mental fighter, that he seemed like he's thinking and he's processing a lot. And for Kagayaki, this is always going to be like, this is just a path around his journey. Mm-hmm. And he's not reached the greatness yet. He's evolving to get there. Or at least he's trying. And so this will be good to see from the perspective of, let's watch and see how he progresses. How do you recover from this loss, which was, it didn't fall down too much.
No, it wasn't horrible. But you wouldn't want to be building off of whatever was going on.
No.
Throw the record aside.
No, you want to rebuild.
Yeah. His sumo identity was, like, not there. There was no brand of sumo. It was just done. So he would not want to spend too much time in that headspace that he was in. Next we have Tamawashi, our favorite cookie baker. Apparently he makes a mean cookie. And he is down from Maegashira 6 East to Maegashira 10 East, 5 and 10. He got beat up, but at the same time, he still looks pretty consistent, and he's still got that great record where he's not missed a tournament in
Iron
forever.
Man.
So he's kind of the Cal Ripken of sumo. I would say that he's always a dangerous fighter. Like, if you got to take it one day at a time with him. You look at his record, that doesn't tell you whether you're going to win that day. He can pull some real shifty stuff, and not only are you losing to him, but you might lose your career.
Possibly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, Chiyonokuni. Yeah. But for Tamawashi, it is... I would agree that it seems that he's a constant at this point, and that his strength and his grit will just drive forward, and people who can deal with that will win, and people who won't will lose. It seems that more people are figuring him out, which is sort of bad news for him. Mm-hmm. But whenever he's beaten, it's because the other guy was better rather than him getting worse.
Exactly. It's steady state.
So it's a steady state for him, which is important for these older wrestlers who there's always the question of the fade.
Right.
For him, I don't worry about the fade. Not yet anyway. Well, if this tournament he starts getting slammed again, maybe we'll start worrying, but we're not at the worry stage with Tamawashi yet. Yeah,
he's doing his thing, and he's going up and down, and he's doing his workhorse sumo, and
yeah.
That's all she wrote on that. So now we come to Terutsuyoshi. He is up from Maegashira 13 East to Maegashira 10 West. He's had a rough journey because he's a tough little man with a lot of spirit and a lot of like, I'm going to show you my pride kind of guy. And it doesn't always work out for him. Sometimes like he's in there and he's giving it all he's got and he's got the swagger and he just gets planted.
Mm-hmm.
And then some days it just looks beautiful and, you know, he pulls a leg pick on a Ozeki. Somehow, some way, he's got to make it come together. And I'm just painting a fantasy here. He got to be in the Yokozuna ceremony for 2 days with Hakuho. That may be the last Yokozuna ceremonies there ever are for him. Maybe Terutsuyoshi can take something from that, hang that on his mantle, and be like, that's who I want to be, and we see another side to him.
Keep in mind, he may be in the Yokozuna ceremony again with Terunofuji.
Oh, yeah.
But I would agree that he does need to channel something. There is the eternal seesaw for him, the grit versus the mind. And sometimes, you know, sometimes he does a great technique sumo that's all the mind and the trickery, and other times he's just the leather jacketed tough guy we always talk about. And it does seem that he needs to find that balance on the seesaw, and then once he hits that balance, there is no stopping him. And the 8th and 7th good because it takes some of the pressure of the Juryo off of him. Mm-hmm. Enough, maybe that'll sort of, now he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who even worries about pressure. But what's practically nice is not fighting with an injured elbow, not dealing with any other injuries yet, God forbid. All blah, 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 condition that we may be injured at any given day. So if he can come into this one, sort of receiving the energy of the old Yokozuna ceremony, receiving the energy of the Shinozeki, that will get him places.
Well, that's another fair point. You know, here can be riding the wave of Terunofuji's, you know, ascension into greater heights.
Yeah.
And he seems like the type of guy that stuff matters to.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the comments he was making to Midori Fuji about the sword isn't being held properly. Yeah. You know, it seems to me like this all means a lot to him. So if he can put it together, he can really put something special together that we're all going to enjoy. Him especially.
Especially him.
So next we have Koto no Waka. He is down from Maegashira 8 East to Maegashira 11 East. 6 and 9. You know, these things happen when you're young and up and coming.
Yeah, his last tournament is another one. Leave that cursed basho behind for him. He wasn't fighting the way he fought to get
to where he
was. So something was up. And I don't know what it was. I may never know. But Koto no Waka sort of needs to get his stuff back.
Yeah, he's one of the young guys that we've been hyping for a while. And he's just in a tough spot right now. I don't think anything has changed. The shine is still sort of there.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long it's going to take. Like, is he going to bounce right back next tournament? Or is he going to need to slowly build like we were talking about with Hoshoryu?
Yes.
I'm guessing that's the case. Anything is possible.
He's low enough that he's sort of he's starting to get into the range of rank where he was starting to get those double-digit wins.
Right. He could do that again.
He's drifting back down. So maybe if he drifts down again, it's definitely just going to pull it back up. Or he's going to have a complete collapse.
Right.
Which the Enhos can happen. So...
Right. It's...
Keep an eye on him.
When we watch the tournament, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Next, we have Chiyoshoma, up from Maegashira 13 West to Maegashira 11 West. 8 and 7. Very, very fascinating because he comes up and I'm thinking he's not going to have a long stay. And he fought really well. I mean, he's been in Juryo for a while now. He fought really well. He's having a resurgence. He's the guy who was a really tiny sumo wrestler. He still does hankas, even though now he is not a tiny sumo wrestler. So he's sort of difficult to predict what he's going to do. I'm wondering if he's got some sort of veteran confidence and a slow re-enter into, hey, remember me?
So, of the people on this list, Chiyoshoma's probably somebody I do not expect to win. By the way, Chiyoshoma, pretty please prove me wrong.
Right.
I would love him to dark horse me out to oblivion.
Do an Aoiyama and be in the contention.
Great. I see him primarily as the test for everyone around him.
Like, how good are you?
Because he presents a very unique problem. Because nobody really fights the way he does his size and at his veteranship. Because there's no old wily Enhos yet.
Right.
Yet.
He's kind of like an old wily Enho.
He's an old wily. So it's this very unique brand. And he poses a very special problem that everybody that he fights. And so he will bring out that interesting sumo in all of his matches, which is very fun. And it also means that anybody who's on the way up is going to figure him out. And if there's anybody who's just a little doubting on themselves, maybe not having a good day of it, he's just going to outfox you.
Exactly.
And that sort of that element is going to make it very fun to watch, win or lose. Right.
He's one of the variables that can toss a tournament into some crazy directions. So we'll be watching. We'll be hoping that this is your resurgent time and you're going to make a little bit of a run at least as high as you can go. And, no predictions there. Next, we have one of my dark horses that still is not panning out. Koto Echo. He is up from Maegashira 14 East to Maegashira 12 East, 8 and 7. He is a lost soul of sumo. He's got all these right things, and even when he's in the match, it seems like he's gonna win, and then he loses. I don't know what goes on in his head. As a fan, I am perplexed. If I were to dive in really deep, it could be like, oh, well, right there he got parried. If you got analytical. I'm interested in the essence of why he loses. Is he not as strong as he looks? Is he too in his head and he makes the wrong choice? I don't know. I feel like he should be way better in the rankings than he is. And I don't know when he's ever going to show what I think he has. So maybe I'm just delusional and I'm seeing something that's not there.
He's on a spirit journey. This is how I'm imagining some like parallel universe where he's like part of some like adventuring troupe and they're out. And so like whatever, there is something he needs to put everything together. And it is what is interesting about seeing these sort of these evolving people is that they all have sort of their own problem. Like with Kiribayama, or like, you know, get the mentorship from Kakuryu, evolve your craft. Like we know what he needs. And then we go to somebody like Onosho, which is like, you have the power, you have the strength, you need the discipline, you know, practice your gosh darn footwork, why don't you? We're just like we could see him, like we see the path to victory, but then we go to Koto Echo and we're like, we see this potential, but it's amorphous. It's where is this going? There's something missing. There are pieces of this puzzle we don't have to solve.
Yes.
And so this is what makes it perplexing, is that he'll show these flashes of brilliance and we're like, oh, there's something here, but I just can't see it. You know, you're putting a puzzle together, but somebody put Sharpie all over the box.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't even know what piece is missing.
You don't even know what piece is missing. It's just all scribbled black.
Maybe he needs an anime break.
Oh,
Might I suggest he calls Shodai up and say, hey, you want to watch Princess Mononoke?
Let's go.
Let's go on a journey. I mean, yeah, I look forward to the day he figures it out because I think he could be really fun. I think he could be in there with Meisei and Tobizaru. He could be in that caliber. I really hope, like, I'm going to be watching and this is the tournament where it's like, I told you! Got him! There he is! Next, we have Okinomi. He was one of the ones who did a huge drop, down from Maegashira 5 West to Maegashira 12 West. 3 and 12. This is one of these things. He's a veteran, and every time we go to talk about him, I don't want to say, oh, well, this is it. He's finally too tired. He's going to retire. The ones who retire, you never expect it. It's like Kakuryu, even though he was injured. It was like, you know what? I had a bad training day. I quit. What? Yoshikaze. Yeah, I'm done. Okay. This just happens. So, while he's older, and there's certainly a possibility, it could also just have been a bad tournament.
This is the thing, and we don't know. Well, I will say the one thing we do know is that this is very anomalous for him. He's never been prone to these collapses before, at least in the time that I remember.
Right, he's more of a 7 and 8, 6 and 9 guy.
If he loses, like, if he's double digits, like, it's 5 and 10, just barely. So this 3 and 12 is a little off the reservation for Okinomi. I'm hoping it's a hiccup and he'll just come surging back. But again, because of the age, because of just, maybe it's the wind down. Maybe maybe he took a falter, maybe he needs to build himself back up. I think we need Okinomi still in this tournament. Like it's not going to be it's not a truck hole, but you know, maybe it's like a sedan hole. Right.
You need these veteran guys to help these new up and comers along.
Yeah. I for one am not ready to see Okinomi go. So please
let that
7 and 8 at worst.
You know, I think we spend too much time up at night like, who's going to retire? Who's going to retire?
It's a nervous wreck.
Just take a deep breath.
It's fine.
It'll be Endo. Tomorrow it'll be like, Endo decided to retire. He got to hang now. What?
Hang?
You know, it's never the guys you expect. So I take solace in that. Anyway, next is, I think, everybody's favorite. If you don't like him, you're not human and you're like a jerk or something. And that's Ikiseyama. He's down from Maegashira 12 East to Maegashira 13 East, 7 and 8. Hey, he puts on a good show. He's trying really hard. He's loving every minute that he's in the upper division. Yeah. And I think he's capable of, at the very least, 7 and 8s, 8 and 7s. I mean, he's getting down there now, where if we want to keep seeing him, he's got to do some 8 and 7s. I think he can still do it. And speaking about people we need need a Kiseyama.
We do need him. And by the way, I have beef. If there's somebody who doesn't like him, it's whoever does the gosh darn Banzuke, because he got 7 and 8 and went down!
Come on, everybody! Why did these other people get to keep rank?
I need to write a strongly worded letter, okay? Okay. Dear whoever did this, Kiribayama gets a pass, but you make a Kiseyama go down 2 ranks?
And then they're gonna go, oh, it's a foreigner. Just decide.
Just joking here.
Just
but
a joke.
It was... if we want to be objective about it, Kiseyama's losses were fairly one-sided, and he was not fighting people of a competitive rank, so
and he was showing the defeat on his face. He was doing a lot of looking up at the sky.
There was a little bit of that. Now the thing is that's why we like him.
Right.
Because he'll be like, oh, I always lose to that. Like you can tell every day he's up there. It's just like, it's the candy store and they said I can take whatever I want.
Yeah, he's talking to the coaches and the refs.
Oh, man. Every time I see him and Tochinoshin, both of them, it's just like, we know it's not permanent.
Right, so you hold on.
So you're just like, this may be the last time I get to hold you in my arms.
And every time they come on, I just smile.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. Like, it's not an intense situation. It was with Tochinoshin before. But now it's just like, oh, it's so good to see you.
So good to see you. And just the physics-defying nature of the front half of his body will just get me every single time.
Yeah, if you just, like, put your hand over, just, like, up to his head, you're like, you're a sumo wrestler? Oh, yeah, you're a sumo wrestler.
It's all down there.
Very strange, but hey, I bet you he owns it.
He does.
Okay, so next we have Daieimami, up from Myogiryu 16 West to Myogiryu 13 West. 9 and 6. You know, he's been in this rodeo before. This was showing, hey, I came back because I'm ready. I'm going to do some damage, and, you know, I need another tournament out of him to really be able to say. Because when I first started watching, he was in the top division, but he was towards the lower half, and he was doing the bounce back and forth between Juryo. He was doing a Chiyomaru, who we'll speak about later, where it's like, oh, is he in Juryo again? Oh, is he back in top division? So it's been a long time since I've seen consistent sumo from him. So I'm not going to venture a guess as to what he's going to do.
Yeah, it's worth noting, again, I'll be comparing him to his other newbies, finger quotes, Tsurugisho and Hidenoumi. So him and Tsurugisho actually had the same 9 and 6, but they ranked Tsurugisho up higher, despite effectively them being, Tsurugisho, anyway, Tsurugisho imposed his sumo.
Right.
Daieimami just was doing sumo.
Right.
And this is not to say that Daieimami is bad at it, because 9 and 6 in the top division is always going to be good.
Right, and he might have been cautious because he was just newly back.
And the nerves and all this other stuff. So for him, it's the sophomore performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of these people, so for Hidenoumi, for Tsurugisho, we're just like, we want to see what you do again. And then we're like, and then it's like, you're like pulling the wind-up race car back and want to let it go and just want to see it like go through the loops. For him, it's more of a, okay, now what you're going to do? I need a second look at you to get the full picture and see what you're going to do.
Right, exactly. And then we'll have plenty to say about him when that time comes.
Yes.
So next we have Ruden. He is down for Myogiryu 10 West, Myogiryu 14 East, 6 and 9. He really hasn't been the same, honestly, since, I don't know that this is the reason, but this is the time period. I noticed it. He has not been the same since Shoboshi died. And it could be a very real reality that the heart can really mess with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in slow decline. There hasn't been, he started the jockey thing, which gave him a little bit of energy.
A resurgence.
But it just seems like his heart isn't in it. I could be reading that wrong. He's declining, and he's gotta pick himself back up. Maybe a stint in Juryo would be good for him. I don't know. He seems a little sad, a little lost. I don't know. He just hasn't been the same.
It hasn't been the same. He had the jockey sumo that got him back up going, but now he's back down again. Like right where he is at 14 East, sink or swim. That's what because if he does now, if he's like a 7 and an 8, maybe he can hold on. But if he gets another 6 and 9, he's in Juryo.
Right.
And he could go the way of Shohozan that he just stays down there.
Right.
Like if now I would love Sadanomi and Shohozan to come back, but I kind of don't expect it.
Yeah,
they're phasing out.
Yeah,
and that's that Ryuden is at risk of fading out.
He is, and he did that big climb back up himself to get back into the upper division, but sometimes you don't get the Cinderella story.
You don't. Well, it's like he got it, and now he's sort of fading away.
Right.
Again, but as we said before, never count the veterans out.
Right, and every single tournament is a new tournament and a new you.
So Ryuden really got, like, if anybody needs to hear that, it's Ryuden.
If you speak English, if you understand English, we're telling you could do it.
If you download a random podcast off the internet.
Yeah, the 2 random people. Listen, we're in your support club.
We can do it.
So next we have Chiyotairyu, down from Maegashira 11 East, Maegashira 14 West. 6 and 9, he was coming off of the COVID situation. He is also older. He is also dealing with, he lost all the weight. Things haven't been the same for him since he lost weight. Some of that is circumstance. Some of that is just life. And some of it's age. There's a lot that has to come back together. And I do worry a little bit that he's a fader. It's a consistent fade at this point.
Yeah, it's a little weird, though, because, like, the COVID has sort of thrown things into the mix, so maybe he's still recovering from that. He's losing weight. Similar to Takakeisho, that sort of affects the way you fight. You have to sort of rebuild your strategy, your brain of sumo. So Chiyotairyu he had a lot going on in the last 4 months. Mm-hmm. And so there's too much in the mix to really
know for sure.
Like Ryuden were like, I don't know about this. Okinomi were like, we just hope it's not that. For Chiyotairyu, like, it can be that, but it cannot be. And at the same time, even if you are rebuilding yourself, if you don't do it faster, you're going to be in Juryo.
Right. You're kind of running out of time.
Now, maybe he'll figure, like, he is somebody that I would expect to bounce back.
Right.
If this is a getting my body back up, getting my weight back up, getting my timing and my speed, like, that is something that it's just going to be until he figures it out. And if he figures it out here at 14 West, or if it's in Juryo 5 or 6, it's just time for him. So it doesn't really matter then. Right.
He's not some young guy who doesn't know what he's doing. He's been around a long time. He's fought the toughest of the toughest. So he can. If it's in his capability, if there isn't something out there that we don't know about, he will bounce back. But we'll have to wait and see.
Maybe sumo.
Yeah. Next, we have one of your buddies, Kaisei. He is at Maegashira 15 East, up from Maegashira 16 East, 8 and 7. You got him as treading water, which is true, but boy, he was looking like a fader before this tournament. So I actually would say it's a positive.
It's the 8 and 7 it is good. I will agree. I do, like, similar to Hokutofuji, I want him to win so badly, it's hard to stay unbiased.
Right, and you kind of do go into defense.
I'm just like, no, he's still got it. His neck is better. He's slow, he's got the resolve. He's sturdier than he was before. He's showing all the keys to success, and at the same time, I'm like, oh man, 8 and 7. By the way, you give Hoshoryu 5 ranks for 8 and 7, and he gets 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they want to.
Yeah,
they want to put Hoshoryu in the gauntlet. See what he can do.
I mean, I am joking because
I know.
Kaisei's quality of sumo was not miracle no luck leg trips of Kagayaki like Hoshoryu was.
Yeah, exactly.
That being said, Kaisei is in the danger zone, and which sort of lose-lose situation for him because, like, these 8 and 7s, these 9s and 6s, that seems to be the best he'll be able to do. So he's going to be sort of, like, clawing his way back slowly while dealing with the mounting injuries.
Right. If he's down low enough, he might be able to pull it off. Mm-hmm. He's in a good position for the slow return. If he's got it in him still.
He's got it in him still.
Which it was positive. In the end, there was a glimmer of hope. Next we have is Midori Fuji, who is down from Maegashira 10 East to Maegashira 15 West, 5 and 10, fighting with a hernia. I mean, what do you want? Miracles? Fighting with a hernia? Hernias are horrifically painful, and it's hard to breathe. It's hard to eat with a hernia. And he just had to do what he had to do to stay in the top division. So I wouldn't be saying anything to him besides I hope you recovered. Like, I don't know if he got a surgery or anything like that, but I hope you're feeling better because it's not indicative of your style of sumo. It's not indicative of what you can possibly do. And it really stinks that when you have an injury like that, there's really nothing you can do.
It's nothing. It is, I went into this before, I'm not going to go into it again, but the end result is he was able to keep his top division rank, and we both know that a game Midori Fuji at 15 West is going to kataskashi everything in sight. So I am not worried about his rank for him. It is just a matter of how lasting of an effect is this hernia going to have on him.
Right, like, has it actually properly been treated? I don't know. I mean, hernias are tricky because you can get a surgery, but then you got to recover from the surgery. If you ignore it, it's not going to be better for the next tournament. Yeah. I don't know what he's doing, so I hope he's not going to fight with the hernia again. Then he's... What's the point?
The point, please, is sit out. But again, it's the 2 months in between tournaments does usually make me think that unless it was big surgery,
people will be ready.
Yeah, the nicks and cuts will get cleaned away. So optimistic for Midori Fuji, unless we see the Kyujo banner out on day one.
Oh, I really don't want to see that.
I'm not going to jinx it. He'll be fine.
Next, we have a returner, Ishiura. Maegashira 16 East, up from Juryo 2 East, 9 and 6. He's been in Juryo for a while, living under the, all the craziness of Hakuho being in, not being in. He is still injured, actually. So I don't know what's going to happen. His injury is not healing 100%. But sometimes, maybe a wrestler says that to take the pressure off themselves. It's an ankle injury as far as I know. So, I love Ishiura. I think he has some very exciting sumo, and I never understood why he couldn't put it together to stay in the top division races and stuff like that, like just be higher up. He's been in the top division a long time before he got dropped down to Juryo, long before Enho had shown up. So, we're just going to see. Unfortunately, no Yokozuna ceremony for him this time around. But, I think he's going to give it everything he's got.
Yeah. Good news for Ishiura that he's back. Now, whether or not he'll stay is up to his injuries, up to the quality of sumo he's been able to put together, which we haven't really seen much of as
in a long time.
In a long time, at least in the top division, which is our focus. His sumo was the muscular but wily type. Very fun to see. He made a good run of it back in the day. He just sort of fell back down in Juryo. This does seem to be a trend with some people. That they'll fall down to Juryo, they rebuild themselves, and then when they come back, they're stronger than ever. That's what I'm hoping happens here.
Sort of the Saiyan effect.
The Saiyan effect, a little bit.
You kill me and I come back stronger, that kind of thing. Ishiura, I don't know how training's going for him because Hakuho is not around. If he's recovering from the knee thing. That used to be a benefit to him. Now, if I can find it, I'll put it in the description section, but I watched a training session with Hakuho, Ishiura, and Enho. I didn't want to be alive after watching that. What Hakuho has put those two under is, wow. You gotta be one heck of a person to be able to handle a Hakuho training session like that. So Ishiura is a tough guy, and I don't think we've seen everything from him yet. I think he can still do more.
We'll see if this is the 2.0, the resurgence, the rebuild.
Mm-hmm. Next, we have Chiyomaru, who's been down in Juryo for a while. He's up from Juryo 3 East to Maegashira 16 West. He had a 9 and 6 in Juryo. He's just a big old jolly guy with a lime green mawashi. Him and Chiyotaru fights were always awesome because it's just two bowling balls colliding. I really like when he's around. I hope he can stick around this time.
He had a few matches last tournament because he was high enough up to fight in a couple of exchanges. So we did see him fight like a little bit. From what I saw, strong sumo, the same big, jolly, green-belted man that I know and love. So good to see that for 15 days instead of the sporadic 2 or 3 of whatever we get. And just more big guys just bumping big bellies. I don't know.
That's the quintessential sumo.
It does. It feels like we need Chiyomaru
to make it sumo.
To make it sumo. It is. It is that. It's the same effect. So hope to see more Chiyomaru. We'll see if his talent is up to muster. Really, just good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, welcome back. Our final member of the top division is Akuwa. He is up from Juryo 1 West to Maegashira 17 East, which I would have made a joke about, and he's going to win the tournament, but we're past that now. That was going on for quite a while.
Terunofuji put a stop to that.
Yeah, Terunofuji's not going to let anybody have their way. So he had an 8-7. He had a run of very bad luck with COVID, car accidents, something else happened. I think it's his time to just come in, put up a solid score, and just slowly climb his way back to where he was gonna be before all the bad luck hit.
More big jolly sumo from Akuwa. So long as the bad luck is gone, you know, whatever mirror he broke in the past, whatever walking under ladders or seeing black cats or I don't know, whatever he did, it's all good. It's all gone. He's gotten out of his system. He does have some nerves. Probably just worrying about whatever bad luck he's got going on. If all that's gone, he'll be fine. Because when he was here before, we were like, okay, this guy's got something to show.
Exactly. Now he's in the last spot, which takes the pressure off of you in a way. Sure, he doesn't want to go back to Juryo, but he was just there.
Yeah.
So it's not the same as being a guy who's like in the 10 spot, worried about going to Juryo. So maybe he'll fight with a little bit less stress, and that will take care of it in and of itself.
Yeah. And so I'm feeling optimistic for Akuwa. I feel like it's sort of the karmic balance come his way, and he'll get a nice clean 9-6, and then we'll be like, he's good. You see,
everything's good.
It was just the COVIDs.
Exactly. It's ruining everything.
God.
So, a couple of Juryo notes. Yu Takayama, Koto Shoho, Juryo 4 and Juryo 5 respectively. Yu Takayama's in bad shape. He really just needs to heal up. Maybe a stint in Juryo will be good for him. Koto Shoho is also injured. Koto Shoho, he needs to just chill.
Yeah. Both of them sort of need the break in Juryo to get things together. Yu Takayama sort of needs to rebuild from the ground up. Yeah. And just sort of redefine his identity. Koto Shoho just fell down the stairs.
He'll come back.
He'll be back. I'm just like, Koto Shoho will be like, we'll see him in 6 months. You know.
Now, interesting note is that Yu Takayama is a training partner for Shodai, and that maybe was another element of Shodai. Shodai, not having his big, top division guy to fight with.
Very true.
So, maybe that'll influence Yu Takayama to, put the pieces back together. We'll see. Less pressure. Maybe. He's one of my favorites. I hate watching him struggle the way he does. I think he should be up higher, but life is life, and we'll see what happens for him. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it just for Yu Takayama, now it's sort of like now that he's in the unhappy ending. Now that it's just like everything's fallen down. It is the rock bottom effect. Now he can rebuild himself back up. If he's not injured, he gets to help Shodai build himself back up. Maybe both of them sort of need that building. So maybe that can be an energy that they can channel off of each other. And again, Koto Shoho, I'm not worried about.
Right. He'll be back.
He'll be back.
Enho and Ura are Juryo 1 East and Juryo 2 West. Enho's slowly making his return. I hope that he learned a lot of new tricks and he's ready for the battles. He'll be back. Ura has been let's see him come back. He's, one of the comeback stories. His knees are in worse shape than Terunofuji's, and he's still making it all the way up. So, on one hand, it's like, this is awesome. On the other hand, it's like, savor it. Because if he does make it back up, which it looks like he will, I don't know how many tournaments he's got. He's kind of putting it all out on the line and seeing where he can get before the hourglass runs out. So enjoy him while you can. That's
They're of note because, one, they're both crowd and personal favorites. They're at 1 East and 2 West. They're at a place that they could be here next Basho. They're also very likely going to show up in top divisions because we have an odd number of people
right
on the bottom.
Exactly. So, and inevitably somebody is going to have a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as they just keep it consistent enough and get their winning score, both of them, or at least Enho, will be back.
Yep.
So before we conclude this preview session, I will ask you, as I do every time, who's going to win the tournament?
I am all in on the crazy dark horses. I feel like the top division up here, like there's too many people who are obvious. Mm-hmm. So I'm going down the list. Like I'm looking, like I said before, Tsurugisho without any issues is going to win. It's going to be something crazy like that. Tobizaru gets it. Hoshoryu. Imagine Hoshoryu getting the cup.
Oh man.
Just grabbing it. That'll be, I'm feeling that kind of going down to the rank and file. And then what'll happen is at the top section is just going to be this bloodbath. Because you're going to have Wakatakakage and Meisei and Chiyonokuni and Kiribayama are just going to be going to war with the Sanyaku. All the Ozeki are going to be punching each other in the face. It's all going to equalize.
Right. And then some lower guy is
going to get 13 wins. And they're going to be like, remember me?
Who do you think it's going to be?
I would say Hoshoryu or Tsurugisho, just completely out of nowhere. It would be interesting if it's Hoshoryu. I feel like that would be interesting. I feel that there would be an interesting prescience to that. If Wakatakakage gets it, that's going to be fun. I don't know if he can. There is still that rough edge.
There's the curse.
A little bit of a curse on there.
Yeah.
Would be interesting if Terunofuji back-to-backs.
It's very possible.
Very possible. And Shodai is at his most dangerous.
When he's angry, Shodai on the ropes.
On the ropes. So, there's a lot of... Again, this is the fun in this May tournament, is that the only real things that we're watching are things that aren't going to be affecting the tournament itself.
Right.
So, like, everybody's looking at Terunofuji as sort of like the next person rising up. That doesn't really mean he has to win. It just means everybody's paying attention to him.
Exactly.
And Shodai hitting Katoban just means he needs 8 wins. It doesn't mean he needs to win either. And then nobody else is on an Ozeki run, and definitely nobody's on a Yokozuna run. So
it's really going to be, you have this impression in the first week, and it's somebody totally different who wins.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is toss a bunch of names in the air.
It's toss-up sumo. It's 52 pickup.
But I am going to say
42
this.
pickup.
I'm going for Takakeisho.
Ooh, yes!
And this is a good total backfire, because trust me, I know what Takakeisho is capable of. I think he's going to be so hungry after that whole situation where he went from Katoban to in it. And Chris had surmised that Takakeisho might not have had his whole heart in that Terunofuji battle simply because he would then have to beat Aoiyama, and at what cost. If he's correct about that, and if Takakeisho's body isn't all screwed up, I think Takakeisho's going for it. I definitely think he's going for it.
Yeah. Well, it's the now that there's 4 Ozeki, we sort of saw this before, that the 3 Ozeki are always sort of going after each other for who's the best. And there's always somebody doing better. There's always somebody in Katoban. Now that there's this 4th person in the mix,
it changes everything.
It sort of changes the spin on it. Because this was what we were always talking about, the tale of 3 Ozeki. That all 3 of them put together were this mega Ozeki, because each of them had a strength that was another one's weakness.
Exactly.
But now here comes Terunofuji. He ain't got no weakness.
But he has lost to Takakeisho.
He has lost to people.
And he's lost to, like, Shimanoumi.
So
now, with that being said, Terunofuji winning, very real possibility.
Very real possibility.
But I don't know. I'm also so biased. But this is the first time I've ever said Takakeisho is going to win.
In fairness, this is the first time you put that particular hat in the ring. So you're going for Takakeisho. I'm going for low rank upset. Wakatakakage getting it, that would be very interesting, but that's not my pick. I would say somebody 5 East or lower. Somebody not in the meat grinder. So the Hoshoryu, the Tsurugisho, maybe you get maybe a Kisayama Yusho.
I think secretly, you don't want to say it, but I think secretly you're thinking Hoshoryu.
Thinking it's somebody in
the
there.
Essence, at least, of Hoshoryu.
Now, okay, Midori. Like I'm just going through the list. Midorifuji, how cool would that be?
Awesome.
Trying to think. Chiyoshoma getting it and retiring, hilarious.
That would be awesome.
Endo winning it and just completely ruining all of us.
Because what he would do is in the interview. So how's it feel to win? Great.
It was great. Thank you for your support.
Wait, we had more questions. Yeah, I'm done.
I'm done.
Endo! Endo cannot win for that reason.
The only person who will have a worse interview than Daieisho is Endo.
Don't sleep on Daieisho either.
No, I'm done.
But you don't want it.
I'm done picking him. I picked him.
That means he's gonna win.
I'm done.
Because you won't pick him.
I'm not picking him. That's exactly. Not.
Okay, I got it.
I'm not talking about his Ozeki run at all. I'm not talking about how he's cleared his curse and how now it's the time to go. I'm also not talking about how Takayasu, this is the tournament for him to win because Hakuho will be back in July. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm not
No.
I'm not gonna hex it.
I've probably hexed Takakeisho.
That's fine.
But you know what? I'm going to just own it. I'm going to own it. If there was a United States of America fan club for Takakeisho, I want to be president.
You want to be president.
So I'm going to own it.
Own it.
Anyway, thank you for joining us as always. It's tons of fun knowing that it's just not the two of us talking about it. We have all these new friends.
We're grateful for that anybody is watching this.
It's awesome that you are, and feel free to comment. We read them all. We'll comment too, and we'll have fun. We'll get our popcorn out and just look at the madness. Because really, I have no idea who's actually going to win.
There's no way of telling.
It's going to be great. But, one more note. First 3 days, no fans.
Yes, state of emergency in Japan. And not to say that the fans are coming back on day 4.
We
know that the first 3 there's not.
If you are not following Chris Sumo, you should be, because that's where you're going to get the most update news in English. That's where we get a lot of our little tidbits, like no fans for 3 days. So thank you again for listening. Have fun with the Basho. We'll catch you at the end.